College football is back, baby. We got the Rambling Wreck of Georgia Tech taking on Florida State across the pond in Ireland. We're going to talk about that matchup up next here on Bash the CFB Show. How is everybody doing on this fine evening or morning? You're probably seeing this Friday morning. I am Colin Bashnagel. If this is your first time here, I would appreciate it if you just stuck it out and listen to what I have to say. And if you like the video, as every single like helps the algorithm. But the most important thing I think you can do is comment down below. We like discussion. We like debate. I like talking to you guys. I like talking to people on TikTok. And I like it when I get into Twitter Spaces, and that's what I'm going to do this year. Sorry, the X Spaces. That's what I'm going to be doing this year for college football. So make sure you guys check out all of my links so that way we can build a little bit of a community here, and you guys can interact with me. And this is going to be an opportunity for you to be personable with somebody posting their opinions online here. So today we got the Florida State Seminoles and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets playing out in Ireland. This is going to be a very interesting matchup as the upset-minded team in Georgia Tech comes in after having really a good close to their 2024 campaign. They had a lot of moments last year, but I think the moment that's highlighted the most is the blunder against Miami. But people don't realize how good Georgia Tech was in some situations. They were really competitive against Georgia. They ended up beating UCF, coming back. Their offense looked pretty dang good in that bowl game, the Gasparilla Bowl against the UCF Knights. And I think that a lot of people are going to sleep on Georgia Tech in this game. They're going to see that 10.5 point spread and be like, well, Florida State should blow them out. They went undefeated last year. They ran through the ACC, but they are replacing a lot. They're replacing a lot on both sides of the ball. And I think the first thing that you got to highlight about Florida State replacing is that wide receiver core. They're trying to address it with guys like Malik Benson and Brown and use tight end Kyle Morlock. But at the end of the day, they're going to be leaning more on the run, which wasn't necessarily a struggle point for Florida State, but wasn't as good as they would have liked it to be a year ago. But with how Lawrence Toafili was playing at the end of the game or at the end of the year in a game specifically against Louisville in the ACC championship, but then also what Roydell Williams has shown flashes of at Alabama in the past, you're going to have a pretty solid run game with that offensive line that you have. You just need a quarterback to steady the ship and manage the game. And this is a guy in DJ Uiagalelei who was asked to do that at Oregon State a year ago. And it was relatively successful for DJU. It was a successful mold, and there's a reason why Florida State went and got him out of the portal. But they also didn't really have a whole lot of answers. I mean, they didn't want to turn to Brock Glenn. So let's not act like Florida State was not desperate, because it was either Brock Glenn or Luke Kroenhoek, the true freshman. And that's just not a situation that Florida State wants to be in. So they were pretty desperate, and they went out and got a former player of a conference rival, Clemson, DJU, and he's going to be asked to do what he did at Oregon State, manage the game and give that ball to Lawrence Toafili and Roydell Williams and anybody else that lines up in that backfield. But on the other side of the ball, they're going to be facing a defense that really struggled against the run last year, 131st in America against the run. They replaced a lot of those guys, and they lost a lot of production off that defense, but that's not necessarily a bad thing considering the fact that they were not very good last year. They tried to address the defensive line with a couple of guys, Vandenberg and Ty Faze and other guys, many guys in that front seven type of mold. They're at the end of the day going to be a little bit improved, especially throughout the course of the season. But are they going to be improved enough to be able to contain this Florida State rushing attack enough to give that explosive offense a chance? So let's talk about that explosive offense a little bit. Georgia Tech, 7th on offense when it comes to returning production. On the offensive side of the ball alone, they are 7th in America. They bring back Haynes King, who really exploded onto the scene as a pretty solid quarterback who has some legs, by the way, can run around with that running back Jamal Haynes, who also had a breakout year. And then a couple of wide receivers broke out too. Malik Rutherford and Eric Singleton Jr. both broke out with, by the way, Lane coming back, Chase Lane coming back off of injury. they're going to look to him and that experienced offensive line to kind of lead them down the field. And on the other side of the ball, you got Patrick Payton, Marvin Jones Jr. as a duo who a lot of people think is going to lead one of the better defensive lines in America. So is this offensive line going to be able to hold their own against really good Sunday level players and Patrick Payton, Marvin Jones Jr., and the rest of the guys on that side of the ball? They also do have a decent secondary, Florida State does. If Fentrell Cypress is going to probably lock down one side of the field, and you got to see some plays being made by Rutherford, Singleton, or Lane to be able to, number one, take advantage of any sort of favorable matchup that they have there, but number two, be able to win some matchups against Cypress himself, because that's the only way I think Georgia Tech's going to be able to win this game, is to be able to attack through the air as well as keeping the defense honest by running the football. I think they're going to use the throw game. They're going to come out aggressive. They're going to swing as hard as they could swing, and they're going to try to open up the run game through that aggression through the air. But at the end of the day, I think Georgia Tech won't have enough tank in the gas. I think specifically Florida State's going to wear them down in the run game. A couple of explosive runs, specifically by Lawrence Toafili, who I think is an absolute danger and lightning in the bottle when you get him in space. And I think that the Florida State Seminoles pull away in the end. They barely cover the spread. I'm not playing it personally. Just because it's week 0 doesn't mean you have to play. And I'm going to dodge on this game, duck out, because I got Florida State scoring a late touchdown to make it 34-22 to win the game against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets in Ireland to start off conference play 1-0 to try and get back to the ACC championship. Next up, we have SMU on the road at Nevada as they're an ACC team taking the football field for the very first time since joining the conference. But until then, thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out this long. I'll see you guys in that next video.